Well, good afternoon. Thanks, wow, that is loud. Good afternoon. Thank you for everybody for joining us today. We will get rolling with our Parks and Recreation Commission meeting today. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll jump into public comment. The board takes public comment on all items in the regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the board at this time. The board may request an item to be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. And I think Carl's got some updates on the public comment rules.
Yes. Back in July, the City Council passed a resolution, adopted a resolution that concerns public comment, kind of in a way to better control public comment, or allows the chair to be able to control public comment during a meeting. Essentially, the changes are, folks can still speak at open public comment like now, and also can speak to an item. To do so, they do have to fill out a form now that it's going to be at the meeting, so folks can come early and fill out the form so they could speak during public comment. And then we're going to put it also on our page that has to get information about the board, so folks can fill it out then and then come to the meeting. They have to turn that in. In our case, it'll be to either me or Barbara, so that we can control and let you know who's going to show up to speak for a particular item or just for open public comment. And then again, when folks speak during public comment, they have to introduce themselves and say what single member district they're from. Folks who aren't citizens can also speak. So they just say their name and say where they're from. Proponents, applicants of an item, or appellants have 5 minutes to speak. Other folks who aren't one of those have 3 minutes in order to speak, but the chair can always extend that if you see the need for that. That doesn't count folks who are showing up for a presentation. If we've already coordinated a presentation, they can have 10, 15 minutes to give that presentation, however long it is needed. Again, the one person, as long as they fill out the form, they can speak at any item they've signed up to speak, as well as the open comment. Let's see. Oh, and also, if folks speak, they have to speak directly to the board, to the chair, not to staff, and ask questions of staff. They have to ask the board and the chair, and any criticism has to be directed towards the city and not staff. So, did I miss anything, Roger?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I believe you covered it.
It's going to be new for and this does apply to every board and commission in the city, including city council. So it's going to be a learning curve, but we'll get used to it. That's all I had.
Perfect. Thank you, Carl. Questions on any of that? All clear? Okay. We'll roll into item number 2, which is our consent agenda.
Ask if there's any other
Sure.
comment, if you may.
Oh, sure. Yes, of course. Is there any public comment? Brian's good? Okay. All right. Perfect. So we'll roll into our item number 2, which is the consent agenda. Consider approving the August 21, 2024 meeting minutes, which everybody should have a copy of those. And I will entertain a motion when anybody is ready.
I'll move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll roll into item number 3, the regular agenda, public hearing and comment. We'll start with the first one. Consider a proposal to lease the Bosque and recommend any related matters.
We have a proponent who is here to speak to the item, but let me give a quick orientation. I think most folks are familiar with the Bosque, but in case folks watching are not, let me remind everyone where it is. It is downtown, just below Concho Avenue. in between South Chadbourne and Irving Street along the river. Here's the entrance to the Bosque with some of Art and Uncommon Places art there to the right. Washer pitching areas, there's 2 of them. There's one here and there's one right behind that one. There's a chessboard, and we have chess pieces in the concession stand. One of the docks is, I think, got unattached during the flood, but this is the dock where we had the paddle boats, and that could be reused again. This is the bocce ball area. This isn't part of the Bosque, but it could be used as part of the Bosque. It's underneath Chadbourne Street. It's a little stage with a seating area and a place to plug in for amplified sound for like small bands. The sand volleyball area just below Twisted Root. The concession, it looks kind of small in this picture, but it's a little bit bigger than that. It's got the concession area, it's got a restroom for the concession, it has storage area and a mechanical room. And this is the miniature golf area. And of course, fishing is very popular down there since we work with TPWD to stock the river there at that location. I guess on August 14th, we received a proposal from Mr. Carlos Rodriguez, owner of Kona Ice, and also of Traveling Tom's Coffee. I think most folks are familiar with them. They do awesome work around the community, always supporting different events. And his proposal was basically to lease the Bosque and to restore and enhance the Bosque. Currently, the Bosque is not leased to any party. It was tied to San Angelo Host concessions agreement. The last amendment with that concession agreement took the Bosque out of his responsibilities. So Recreation's been running it, and we'd like to give somebody else the opportunity. It does definitely have potential, and we would love to see it enhanced and working like it should be. Mr. Carlos Rodriguez is here, and so I think he wants to speak about the proposal.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Rodriguez. As you guys probably know, that Bosque Park is a beautiful park, and I've lived here in San Angelo a good 15 years now. I'll leave it up there. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I think it's a beautiful park, and I've always thought it's a shame that it really isn't getting utilized the way it should be. I was fortunate enough to be there on the grand opening back years ago when it first opened up. We had a little mini Kona truck out there for the attendees out there, and it was just jam-packed. And that's the memories that I have of it compared to kind of what it's like today. Just a little bit about me. I own Kona Ice for about 15 years now. We've been in San Angelo. I also own Traveling Tom's Coffee, which is a new business here. And I have a passion for San Angelo. It's been very good to me. So we work with a lot of entities, from government to school to private entities. So we have a lot of great relationships that we've built with that company. So I wanted to kind of leverage that to help bring the Bosque back to life. So what I see there is, a ton of potential, establishing all its foundational activities there, like the 18-hole miniature golf course working, the paddle boats and the kayaks, and a functioning concession stand, and just a great place to bring families. When you think about things to do in San Angelo, either folks that live here or are visiting here, if you ever Google things to do in San Angelo, there are very few things that come up, which is a shame, because San Angelo does have a lot to offer. But it would be great to have something like that folks can bring their families or the visitors to a beautiful place, a beautiful park in here in San Angelo, and it be functioning and clean and affordable, and just offer a great atmosphere for our folks and visitors. Any questions so far? No? Okay, so
Keep rolling.
kind of my vision is providing kind of not just a park, but a park/venue, right? Have some small bands there, some live music and stuff like that. Even, like I said, it's a beautiful park. It'd be a great place to have a wedding, company picnics, those type of things that we already work with, different companies and stuff, as Kona and Tom's. So again, we have those relationships that hopefully we can build a venue out of this park as well.
Awesome.
Yep. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
In terms of folks that may want to reserve that site for their own function,
Mm-hmm.
are they going to be going through a city application? They're going to have to be
They're going to be going
contacted?
through us because we're going to handle the schedule.
Okay.
And, with this, if we get this completed, you're talking about 6 to 10 new jobs that folks will be working for us. So you'll create jobs, you'll create sales tax revenue, because right now, of course, the city doesn't pay sales tax for anything sold there, but we will. So you'll have some jobs, you'll have some sales tax revenue out of it as well. But, it's really, I think of it as a partnership with the city. It's still their property. Yeah, I think, I deal with several departments with the city now as a business owner, deal with you guys. So I think we have a great relationship already there, and I don't foresee any problems with that.
Big fan of the public-private partnerships. That's a good.
Yeah, it's what it is.
Nice.
Exactly what it is, yeah.
Awesome.
I have a question. Just out of curiosity, for setting prices on items at the concession stand, does this still have to go through council, or does he have the freedom to set his own prices?
I think it depends on how the agreement's built and what latitude is built into the agreement.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
But it's similar to like we have the concessions agreement. That authority has been delegated from the city manager to a designee. In that case, it's to me. That if the concessionaire wants to raise the prices, then they have to turn that proposal into me, and I'll visit with Sid about it. So it may be a similar situation, but it depends on how we build the agreement. You don't want it too locked up that he doesn't have the flexibility to, yeah.
Yeah, we still want to grow the venue, right? One of the complaints that I hear, I've asked folks about it, and they're like, is that still open? One of the comments that I get is it's so hot, there's no place that's cool there. Not a cooling station or anything for, because you have a lot of little ones that are going to play miniature golf or whatever it may be, and to have a place they can go for a few minutes and grab a snack from the concession stand and have a place to cool down and stuff. So it's going to take some investment on my part, and just depending on how the agreement is worked out, what I can do. Because we want it comfortable for folks. We want folks to be able to go out on a Saturday evening with the sunset right there and the river, and just maybe just bring the family and just hang out.
How does it work? I'm just curious, like doing something like this at a city park type setup as it is with the Bosque. How does it work with the river stage? Like that's obviously a public park. I don't know if that's a park recreation spot, but to be able to host events and things like that, is it going to be anything different from that?
In conjunction with the river stage or at that location?
Just, I guess, similarities, pros and cons of things like that.
Yeah, at the river stage, it's basically like a short-term rental.
Okay. But it's on city property, I would assume.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess in his case.
Those are all short-term rentals. This is
Yeah.
more of a lease type thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
But, it's a good point because there are other events that kind of go through that area. We'll make sure we have to communicate, like different runs that go along the river that y'all know what's going on at the same time, and what concerts are going on at the River
Correct.
Stage at the same time, so we
The
don't.
Pops concert, all those.
Yeah,
all those
so we
type
don't
things.
have like conflicts of scheduling or whatever.
Correct.
But as far as if he's hosting an event, I had to double check, but I think he would have the latitude to do that. Probably in the agreement, there would be some language that he'd have to at least communicate like a schedule and what the activities are, so that we know what's going on.
Will the maintenance of the site stay the same, Carl?
The what?
The maintenance of the site, will it stay the same on park staff or?
Well, I think the day-to-day maintenance, like picking up the trash, policing the area, the minor things like changing light bulbs, that would be on him. But if it's more
Correct.
major things, and we probably need your help determining what
Yeah,
that would be.
landscaping,
Right.
those type of things. Yeah, but daily, picking up the trash and.
Yeah, if it's bigger, that may have to be on us.
No, but I mean like the public restroom that's there. Is that gonna be
Oh.
on them or us or the
Yeah, we need to
volleyball
talk about
court?
that.
I would think that would still need to be on us since it's not just his customers that are using that. That's
Yeah,
still
I
open to
agree
people
with that.
walking by.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm just wondering where all this is heading.
We'll need to meet to discuss some of those details.
No problem.
I have a question, Carlos.
Yeah.
Starting out, do you envision any kind of major changes or improvements?
I don't starting out. I think we need to set up the foundational activities that it started with first. Make sure the little mini golf course is clean and functional, and then we got to take a look at the sand volleyball court. Is it clean? Is it ready? Is that net ready? And then we have to talk about the paddle boats and kayaks and stuff like that, and start the fundamental activities that it started with. And then once we get those secured and functioning well, then we can look at other activities to add to that. But I think starting off is just getting it back to where it started.
I'm trying to remember, are there ceiling fans underneath the canopy at the concessions?
There's not.
So that would be a good,
Yeah, it'd be a good
investment
way
to get-
yeah. And yeah, like I said, I would be happy, if the lease agreement works out the way I hope it does, I would be investing in it as well, so I have skin in the game as well. And it's just about improvements to make it comfortable.
Sorry, go ahead. I just had a question. So I'm just trying to envision how it would work. For example, would it still be accessible for the public just to come enjoy the spot without having to pay? Like, maybe if someone brings their own volleyball and they want to play volleyball and no one else has booked it, can they just come play? And
Yes.
you'll be renting out equipment if they want to rent it and selling concessions, but it'll still be open access as it is now?
Absolutely. We want it affordable, and if, you have your own volleyball. Now, we will be scheduling the court and stuff like that, so you'd have to follow the schedule. But yeah, we definitely want it affordable. And then, and open to the public within our hours of operation. Now, I have been thinking about, I'm not sure what the hours of operation are now, but they change from season to season, of course. And maybe closing up a little early, maybe during the week or on the weekend, I'm not sure yet, but for maybe private events where you can actually rent out the park, for a company picnic or a family reunion or whatever it could be. It'd be a little more private, of course, but that's yet to be seen.
So it would be similar to how we do our municipal pool right now.
Correct.
Where there's the operation hours, where it's that fee to get into the pool, but then afterwards, people can do their birthday parties, corporate events.
Correct.
I'm curious if you have studied any other parks in other cities. Like, do you have specific inspiration?
I have. There's a place of all things called the Dog Company in San Antonio. It is actually a food truck park. But they have the volleyball, the sand volleyball courts and stuff like that. It's a privately owned, it's not,
Is it on Broadway?
I'm not sure, I can't remember the streets on, but it's a beautiful park. And I actually went this past weekend to San Antonio to check it out. And, you know, they're utilizing food trucks to bring folks in, you know, and you know, you end up getting a better quality meal versus a concession stand. If somebody wanted to come and hang out and have dinner there and, you know, play putt-putt golf or ride the paddle boats for a few hours, whatever, and really hang out, I think it would complement the park if we got permission to do food trucks and stuff out there. But, you know, that's something after we get the park up and going the way it should be.
Okay. I mean, I would say definitely like having a range of affordability, making sure that the concessions have a wide range.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, I don't know the ins and outs of our city agreements on, you know, can one of those food trucks sell alcoholic beverages there? Like, I don't know those
Yeah, that's
questions. Like,
yet to be
you know,
seen.
just things like, you know, having a range, I think is important.
Absolutely. Yeah, it has to be affordable. And
yeah.
same thing with my own company, with Cone Ice. You know, we can charge $6, $7 a snow cone, but we don't do that. You know, we have one that starts at $3 and goes on the way up. So
Yeah, my kids don't get one every time.
yeah, my friends are like, they're killing me.
They,
and every
they
time
have
you come by.
they have a limit per month.
Yeah. So, yeah, we certainly want to make it affordable because, you know, that's how I feel. You know, I kind of compare it to, you know, I have some friends that have 6 kids. You know, you got 6 kiddos, and, you know, and you go buy a hamburger, you know, it's pricey, you know. So, you know, we want to keep it all affordable. No one's trying to get rich here, you know. I think more than anything, it's my passion for San Angelo and have a great place for us to take our family and our visitors and be proud of it, you know.
Will, like hours and things, will that be something that gets circled back to us? Or once it leaves today, is it going to be handled on a different level?
Yeah, I don't know if it would come back to the board, but if y'all have input now about what the hours can be, and I don't want to lock him in because it does need to vary based on our experience.
There's still a lease to be written.
Right.
So.
Oh, I
depending on
was
what-
just going to mention, since you brought up the heat, I think just observing as a citizen, you know, having the hours vary according to the season plus according to the temperatures. There were many times I wanted to take my kids there in the fall, but it wasn't open during the day, or, you know, earlier in the day. And then in the summer, same thing, wanting it to be open maybe a little later or earlier in the morning instead of like just between 12 and 6. So, and those are things that we kind of talked about when we were putting the current things into place. And so I just wanted to offer that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think, you know, where we live, you know, crazy hot. But to have a cooling place, you know, no matter what time it is, you know, as long as, you know, and the hours that we're open. And same thing with the wintertime. I'm not sure if you have the Bosque open in the wintertime? Or does it close on a certain month?
Yeah, I mean, during like the holidays and all, it did close, like shuttered.
Yes, but currently that's the case, is once we get to like that December month, it'll be closed down for a bit.
Yeah, and, you know, maybe we don't close it in the wintertime. Maybe we have, you know, heated areas.
Heaters.
Yeah, heated areas. So you don't have to necessarily go play the mini golf. You can just kind of hang out. You know, and if it's a nice warm place or maybe, you know, a fireplace there or something, I don't know. I don't know yet. But, you know, I'd love for it to be year round so folks can enjoy it.
Thank you.
I think the one thing to keep in mind is that this is open property. In other words, this is different from the municipal pool in that is a fenced, gated piece of property that you can physically close and lock. This park is not, and it, unless something changes and that whole area gets fenced off, you're still gonna have public coming through there, whether he's open or not. Kind of to your point, Allison, about can we go play volleyball? Most likely, I would suggest he would have that in his facility to rent out if you don't bring your own. But for those that bring their own, it's still a public park, open for recreation. And so it makes it a little more difficult because then you've got a putt-putt course there too that's not fenced off. And so even after hours, you can have people strolling right through that area. And I think as long as everybody's on the same page and with that understanding that it's going to remain like that,
Yeah.
I think we're good to go. I think it's a great thing to have this move forward with the lease. It'd be wonderful.
That's true. And I wouldn't recommend necessarily to fence it, but it's kind of like that park that's on the freeway at Dallas, downtown Dallas, if y'all are familiar with that.
Clyde Warren Park.
It has similar activities. It's a lot bigger, but it's open.
And I was going to mention, it's a lot like the gazebos we have in some of our other parks. Yes, they're there and anybody can go and use the gazebo, but if it's rented out to somebody, they have first shot at it. So I think it would be the same here. If he has a schedule and rents out the volleyball court, for instance, then not anybody can just walk up there and use it if he's already got it rented out. But otherwise, yeah, anybody can walk up there, bring their own volleyball and play on there.
And Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, you're just kind of looking for a thumbs up from us, just as a, we're okay to say, yes, this is good to go up before council, like the nitpicking, the details and all that stuff to be worked out. That's, the heavy lifting's not on us, right?
Right. On this slide, starting out, staff recommends approval. We want to get the boss going again.
Cool.
Mr. Rodriguez is stepping in saying, hey, give me a shot. We say yes. We want discussion, which we've had, and we can continue that. We need the input, and then we need the recommendation. And the next step would be taking it to council, asking city council to authorize the city manager to negotiate an agreement.
Terms and all that stuff. Okay, cool, awesome. Any other discussion?
Nope. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. I guess right now I'll entertain a motion to move forward and recommend that we accept
Excuse
this
me,
and move
I think we
forward
need to ask for public comment first before we
Oh, okay.
do that. Thank you.
Sure. Is there any public comment? I'm glad you keep me on task. That's good. Teresa wouldn't. I'm just kidding.
I just have one question. First of all, my name's Jagger Smith. I'm a Boy Scout in Troop 363. I'm here for a merit badge to get that signed off, but I was wondering if there's any monetary amount for the lease, or is this just for the well-being of the park?
Is there any monetary value coming in from it?
Just for the good of the park, or is it, will the city make money?
Is that your
Yeah.
question?
No, that's okay.
There it goes. Okay. Yes, that would be part of the arrangement, part of the negotiation. So typically, it depends on how much folks are investing in walking in. If they're going to build a building or some sort of improvement, then city council kind of looks at a lower amount for the rental. And then oftentimes, in the past, we used to have like a flat fee and then a percentage fee, but we went away from the percentage fees and just go with the flat fee. Other similar kind of concessions agreements I've seen is start out kind of lower and then kind of escalate over the years, assuming that they're going to get going and become more profitable as the lease progresses. And these type of leases, I would say at least 3 years, max probably 5 years, I'm guessing, is typical for like a concession agreement like this. So I don't know if I should answer him or answer you, but
There'll be some
yes,
sort of
there's gonna-
monetary value exchange.
there's going to have to be some arrangement that they would pay the city, but that has to be negotiated.
Okay. We don't know what the dollar amount is, but there will be
Yeah.
some, yeah. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Good question.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right. Any other public comment? Okay, I will still entertain a motion for recommendation if that's what everybody approves of.
I move to accept or move forward with leasing the Bosque.
Okay?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Well, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Jagger. Thanks for joining us today. Y'all are welcome to stay if y'all want to. Snow cones outside, I assume. I'm just kidding. So we'll move on to item number 3, discuss the Santa Fe Crossing and Station 618 buildings, including their condition, and recommend any related matters.
I'm turning this item over to Mr. Al Torres, our construction manager.
Sure. I wasn't sure if I was presenting or if you were. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Santa Fe Crossing and the Station 618, especially since we used to meet in Station 618. Carl has mentioned to me in the past about taking a look at these buildings. They're both, of course, older historic properties. They're both listed on the National Register of Historic Places, but they're both in need of some attention. So this, of course, is Santa Fe Crossing building, beautiful historic structure. Everybody's familiar with it, but there are a lot of issues on the outside and on the inside. So basically, here's a kind of the major stuff that we saw back in March or April. I believe it was April. A group of us went out there and walked the buildings, both of them, and I kind of made a list of things that I saw, took some pictures, and then we're not sure where to go from there. So that's kind of why we're here before you. So some of the major issues that we saw, number one, there's some structural issues. There's some cracks right there by the front door that are pretty substantial. And if you go down into the basement, you can see that crack continuing down that concrete wall. It's an inch thick in some places. The good news is that it's been there for a while and doesn't seem to be growing, but it's still something that I think we should probably address at some point in the near future. The grout and the brick all throughout, and this goes for both buildings, is failing in a lot of places, so the building needs to be repointed. A lot of broken window panes from where the building shifts. Some windows don't open. Carl says he'd like for his windows to open, but right now they're stuck shut, so make them operable again. Benches and furniture need replacing. I think that we have some pictures of at least one of the benches there. The entrance canopy is a fabric canopy. It needs new fabric because it's got holes in it in places. It's also very faded. Wood decking needs sealing. Inside, there's a lot of places where the paint is peeling and needs patching and painting. Better access needed to the attic. There's leaks that you can see in several offices, either up at the top where it's coming in from the roof or over windows. One of the office areas, the floor is spongy. I don't know if I'd want to work in there. Is that your office, Jesse? The bathroom, there's a bathroom for the staff that's right there by the lobby. There's no AC in there. There's no hot water, which doesn't meet code, by the way, so that needs to be updated. All of the bathrooms are outdated as far as paint colors and the accessories and everything needs to be updated in those. Wallpaper's peeling. There's ADA issues in the bathrooms. No handrails in that particular bathroom, for instance. In the kitchenette, the counter's peeling, the ceilings need paint. The main kitchen needs some upgrades to the equipment. The walk-in freezer is not sealed properly, so you can see where it leaks on the floor, which has caused some cracks on that floor from where the freezer has been leaking over time. Here's a few pictures. You can see that crack that I was talking about there on the left. And like I said, if you go down into the basement, you can see that crack. It continues down underneath the floor. You can see where the porch itself is separating a little bit from the building. And in the picture on the right is actually a picture down in the basement where you can see that crack still continues down. It's hard to tell from the picture on the left, but basically I'm just showing the grout where in a lot of places the grout is missing or failed. And it's causing that's part of what causes leaks inside. Sometimes the moisture gets through through those areas because that grout is failing. There's a window, one of the windows with the cracked pane. There's a picture of the freezer that you can see at the top where it's not set correctly and it shifts and moves. There on the left is one of the benches. I think they were there from before have we recently taken those out? Like I said, we took these in April, so. There's a picture of the canopy. You can't see from that picture, but if you're there and you look up, you can see tears in the fabric where rain is dripping down. Has the trash can been replaced too? I mean, little things like that throughout. I don't have pictures of everything in there, but there's lots of signs of things that need to be updated and fixed. I see some examples inside. That light fixture in the middle, of course, that one's a fairly easy fix, but just threw it in there as an example of things that are in there that need to be upgraded, caulked, painted, patched. Station 618 building didn't have quite as many issues, but it also needs some attention. Again, the masonry and the brick needs attention, needs repointing. The exterior sign on one side is faded, I guess because of the sun on that side. And we talked about this, we either need to just repaint it as is, or talk about maybe changing the design and just replacing it completely. And if we do that, do we want to do that on both sides? One of the exterior doors has water coming in from underneath, so that needs to be addressed somehow. The fascia trim is rotting in some places, so it needs to be replaced. Vinyl wallpaper is peeling throughout, leaks in various rooms. The blinds, that activity room is the room where we used to meet. The blinds in there are in bad shape, and they all need to be replaced. And they're large windows, so it's a substantial project. The RSVP room, the emergency door sticks or stuck, so that needs to be addressed. And again, the restrooms are outdated and need an upgrade. Again, some pictures. Again, you can't tell from this picture. You have to kind of go up and look close, but you can see the masonry grouting. You can see there's a sign where it's faded, especially if you compare it to the one on the other side. And then just some examples of the inside where the wallpaper's peeling, paint needs to be patched and redone. So basically, there's a lot of items. I have not done a cost estimate because I don't want to get into it until I know that that's the direction we need to head into, because we need to talk about funding and you know what it would take. The main two things are the repointing on the brick, structural items, and repainting. It's hard for me to put a number on it at this point. I just did some real rough figuring. So for the repointing on both buildings, it would be anywhere from $40,000 to $250,000, depending on what needs to be done, because there's such a big variety. Everything I can find, that costs anywhere from $3 to $20 a square foot, depending on what you're doing. The painting, again, it just depends on how much of it gets painted, but if I painted the entire interior of the building, again, it could be anywhere from $30,000 to $90,000, depending on what we do. So you can see we're talking about a substantial amount of money. And I'm not sure where Carl wants to go from here, whether we want to focus on certain things first, or whether we want to tackle the whole thing at once. I will mention that on the structural issues, that crack, I have contacted the Texas Historic Commission to ask them for resources or advice, or at the very least, if they could recommend structural engineers that could specialize in this sort of project with historic buildings. They could really help me, but they did refer me to the local rep for the Tom Green County Texas Historical Commission. So I reached out to him, and hopefully we'll meet with him pretty soon, so maybe he can point me in the right direction, mainly to address those cracks before we do anything else. So. Carl?
Yeah, I think the structural issues are important to address first, or any other security-related items before the aesthetic items.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and some of the another point is, he mentioned security items. There are several items that are code-related, like I mentioned, the ADA and handicap issues. those are something that probably should be addressed now, since the city in general is trying to make all our facilities accessible. So that's one thing that I personally would recommend that, we move forward to if we can. Things like the handrails on that stairway don't extend down as far as they should based on what code requires, little things like that. Stuff like paint and cosmetic issues need to be done, but I think you should create some kind of a priority system.
Yeah, we know that the work needs to be done. These are active facilities. We have programming going on every day, Monday through Friday. So we just want to make sure we keep the discussion going and work towards fixing some of these issues. We don't know where the funding's coming from yet, but we want to.
Right, but it helps a lot if the board could recommend that we try to find the funding or try to do something, for certain things. And then when we approach them, we can say, well, look, this is what the board would like to see.
I'd say another priority probably just for you guys, since y'all mentioned the RSVP room where y'all rent out stuff and the emergency doors stuff. I mean, like things like that people are paying for, like income producing stuff.
Right.
So that's the top list.
And that's one of the code
Next to
items
getting
that I
y'all
mentioned
stuff
that
up
needs to
code
be
as
done
well.
first, yes.
Perfect.
How much money do these buildings produce? Like, what's the revenue that comes out of both buildings?
I can't put a finger on exactly what it is in total, but the revenue we generate out of those buildings pays for operations. It pays for a minimum amount of maintenance and replacement to things like their air conditionings.
Do we know when, say the cracks, do we know when those occurred? Like, what's the time frame in which those showed up on the buildings?
The crack has always been there since I've been there 20
Well,
years.
there's
But
multiple cracks throughout both buildings. So do we know that structurally that it's sound? Because I guess my big concern is these buildings are beautiful and they're old, but if they're not producing a viable income, there's a lot of damage in both of them. At what point is it worth revitalizing them for what they're used for?
So, first of all, as far as being structurally sound, of course, that's why I'm trying to get a structural engineer out there to reassess it and look at it and make an expert opinion. But in my opinion, I don't think the buildings are going to come down because of those cracks. If anything, they could get worse and cause more cracking in the walls, and but I don't. As far as the building or the wall coming down in that area, I don't think that's an issue. That crack's been there a long time, and it doesn't appear to be getting worse. Although, in speaking with city management, we've agreed that I'm going to go around all city facilities and kind of look for these kinds of issues, record them, and come up with a system to assess them and come back and check them periodically to make sure things are not getting worse anywhere. But the building is on the historic register, so we have to be careful what we do. So that's kind of why we're coming forward. First of all, to get your recommendation on whether, what areas we should move forward on, and then we can look and see what we can do and see where the funding might come from.
Has it been tested for mold? To
We
make
did-
sure that with all the mentions of leaks,
Yeah, we
water throughout
did
the building?
we did test for mold. I think it was before you came on board as construction manager. There was some before in the past, and we did address that, but we probably should again.
How do because these buildings are used for, obviously, activities, and there's some revenue coming in from them, but they're also just office buildings. How do other city office structures work? Is this special because it's a historic building, or, how do other offices work, or if there's maintenance that needs to be done? I'm just curious,
Like this
Right.
office, like if there were updates that needed to be made to this building or to the annex over there, the old First Financial Bank building.
Right.
First
Right.
National Bank.
And it just depends. I mean, if they're city-owned buildings, that we're responsible for maintaining our own buildings. So the money has to come from somewhere. It's just a matter of prioritizing which issues need to be taken care of. This building we're in now, of course, they had a complete makeover a number of years back, but if there's maintenance issues here, this is also a historic structure.
Right.
So it'd be the
Did
same
that,
question.
does this building just go like straight to council for consideration? Or, I don't know, I'm just curious why,
It
This-
just depends. I mean, we do have a facilities maintenance department. So routine maintenance typically goes through them. Something that's a little bit bigger in scope, again, the individual departments would basically hire somebody or I would hire somebody to go get a professional look at it and get a professional estimate and then go to council and say, we need this money, we propose that this is where the funding comes from, and council has the final say-so.
right.
But facility maintenance isn't budgeted well. Any kind of work that we have to do in our facilities, we have to pay for it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They take care of more things like maintaining the AC and things like that. If it's something above and beyond what's routine maintenance, then each department has to figure out where that funding's gonna come from.
So any department that has a board, that it would go through, things like this go through each department's
Well,
board?
yes and no. Well, this building, for example, there's a lot of departments in this building. So if there was an issue in this building, it would be one particular department.
It's not just part?
Correct.
Okay.
But all y'all's offices are at this building, not the 618, but the station.
Except for parks.
Oh, where are y'all at? I thought when we went that one time, that was up at the top of the train station.
No, they're at 1022 Veterans Memorial Drive. It's behind City Lumber on the river.
Oh, on the north
Where the
side. Okay,
greenhouses-
Gotcha. Okay.
They've been there since 1963.
That's where both y'all are at?
I'm speaking for Roger because his mic's not working.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Roger.
But to be
gotta-
honest,
he's gotta push it.
his facility needs to be looked at
Gotta
too.
push it.
So I'm sorry, my mic didn't work, DJ. But yeah, we do. We take care of our own facilities there, both with our staff. We have contracted out in the past. We've gotten new roofs put on and different types of maintenance throughout. But typically, we have to find that money or try to come before city manager's office or somewhere to try to find the money to do those types of things.
Because how many people are in the office building?
And ours, does she help me, Barbara? 6,
Okay, nice.
but then two at 618 and 6 at 702.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
And then all the activities. Like, we have other facilities, parks, also the pool. I think we need to do the same thing for the pool. I think at this point, we're just kind of letting y'all know the situation. I get Alicia's point about, when you're at a decision-making point, do you invest or divest from something? And I don't know that we're at that decision-making point, but it's an important question to ask. How much do you want to put into something to get it fixed up or change where you're doing it?
Well, and I think another thing for your question on like, hey, if it's serving a purpose, I'd say, for example, our back kitchen. I mean, we'll have over 100 seniors there daily for meals. So we have high participation for that need, and I think there's certain things, for example, the pool needs to make money, right? Sports programs, those need to make money, but in terms of the seniors, there's stuff that we're doing that's a service and a need. So I think, city money's being put to really good use and work with some of the programming for them that don't have places to go. So I don't know if it's necessarily putting money to a building or where can we run this out of if we don't have these in the future.
Nice. Y'all are just giving us a heads up on it. You're not saying we need to give you guys $100,000 today or something, right?
I mean, collectively, at some point, we do have to go to city council because we have to find the funding to either hire a structural engineer or to do the work. It would help to have a recommendation before we go to council, but we could always come back. I think we have time.
Correct. And like Carl said, the first step would be I'm not a structural engineer, so first step would be to hire a structural engineer to go look at this. They would determine, yes, it needs to be addressed, or no, it's fine, just put some putty in there. But they would make a recommendation on how we can fix that and keep it from getting any worse. And then we would have to come back and find funding to make that work.
I mean, there are grants and different sources of funding for historic buildings.
Correct. That's how
least for-
City Hall was done.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
and that's why I'm reaching out to the Texas Historic Commission.
it, yeah.
To see if they can give me some resources on where we might be able to find funding for,
Yeah, I mean,
for
at
these
least,
kinds of projects.
it may not cover all of it, but there is potential that there's sources for some of
And
it.
as far as investing or divesting, I mean, these are two important buildings to San Angelo, and, I don't see not doing something to maintain them and keep them in good shape for our use and for the public.
So before we touch anything, will it have to go to council? Like, are there any minimal improvements that we could do without recommendations?
I mean, a lot of stuff we can do is, like painting doesn't require a structural engineer.
No.
But the funding itself would still have to come from somewhere, so.
Yeah, especially if it's
Unless Carl has extra
over
money in his budget,
50,000.
yeah, he has to,
Well, I was just wondering with like the ADA compliance stuff, I didn't know if there was.
Same
like
thing.
how he's, yeah.
same thing, I can identify those, and it's just a matter of finding the funding.
Well, and that's another story, because with the ADA inspector going around, I think we're going to have a whole list of other items to address.
Would it be helpful if we recommended now, or we brought it for the next agenda, to make a priority list? Like, this is what we're recommending most urgently, and this is like the list of what, like, we would recommend we're focusing on? I mean, would that be something we could do now, or after the structural engineer comes through, we put on a future agenda item for us as a board to make a priority list? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, and I could kind of make a preliminary list and get it out to you, and then you can agree or disagree.
Do you need a go-ahead from us to do that?
Sure, at least a recommendation.
Okay.
I just need to know which direction to go.
I feel like I'm just asking for things today, just asking for recommendations.
I think we can at this point,
Sorry.
get the input.
Okay.
I mean, we wrote the caption so you could make a formal recommendation, so we always build that in if we need it, but just give us some input and some direction. Because there's going to be other facilities we're going to bring to you. I think at this point, we don't want to surprise y'all in the future when we say, hey, we have issues with the building, we're going to have to go to council. And so y'all been part of the dialogue.
I mean, I don't know, but it just seems, I'm thinking maybe let's hear from the structural engineer what their input is, and then go from there. As a board, we could, come up with recommendations of what we think is priority to address.
Fix the structure, get it up to code, everything else priority, yeah. Perfect. All right. Sounds good.
And like Carl just mentioned, sometime in the future, there's a lot of other buildings that probably should be looked at as well. All the rec centers, the concrete pavilion, the Paseo buildings. There's a lot of those need some attention as well.
Those are civic events, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's other facilities.
Right. But we're starting with these two because these two I think are a little bit more urgent because of some of these things that we looked at.
I'll entertain a go-ahead, a green light for Al to scope all this out for us.
We're good.
Can I, real quick, recommend, because I really, and maybe it's just me, but as well as the structural engineering coming back, I think it would be really good to assure that we don't have any mold issues and there's no asbestos issues, because if we do get into these construction type things, there are going to be higher associated costs, as well as if these are historical buildings, what are the limitations or what does it take to get these things done versus a normal building?
Yeah.
And yes, we can certainly do that. The mold in particular, I'm not sure how many active leaks there are. A lot of what I saw were signs of previous leaks that caused damage. I think most of the time those leaks are addressed when they happen, but I don't know, you guys tell me, are there still, like, this rain we had last week, for instance, are there still leaks and coming in the walls?
I think both still have active leaks.
Okay.
So I do think. it
Yeah,
needs
so
to be
checking for
checked.
mold was probably a good idea. The asbestos part of it, any work that is done, the state of Texas requires that it be checked. Asbestos is not harmful if you leave it alone. If there's asbestos on the floor, on the walls, on the ceiling, the state doesn't require that you do anything. The second you cut into that material, you know, whether you're driving a nail into the wall to hang a painting or cutting the floor, cutting the ceiling, whatever, anytime you disturb materials, you have to show that there's no asbestos in that material. So yes, any construction projects that we did, especially if it requires a building permit, they will not issue that building permit until we look at it for asbestos. So that is definitely the case if we start doing anything. But the mold is a whole separate idea, which I think may be a good idea to go ahead and have it looked at. In particular, those areas where there's been leaks.
Good point, Alicia. Okay.
We appreciate the input.
All right, good. We good with that?
Yes, sir.
So, item 5, consider future agenda items and discuss the next meeting day.
I think we need to
Wait.
have public comment on the last discussion.
Every time. I need a public comment thing right here. I should put public comment right there. Any public comment on anything we just talked about? Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll move on to item 5, consider future agenda
Wait,
items.
there's one
I missed
before
one?
that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hear and discuss updates from Recreation on activities and programs and from Parks on operations and products. Sorry, Jesse.
Yes, so from the last time we talked, at the end of August, we had a senior dance. We just charged $5 for the seniors to come out on a Thursday evening. We had 97 show up dancing, and they had a really good time, stayed socialized. I went to go clean a couple of tables, and next thing I know, I become a dance partner. So
That's a good deal.
it was a happening time. What was interesting was people who I never saw as social, who have regularly come to our stuff, were out there dancing, and it was very unique. We want to do more. The seniors loved it because it's one thing to do a survey and people like, yes, we want this, and then there's another to actually show up and come to it. About 30 minutes before start time, we already had a line of seniors ready to go. They wanted to go in, so we had to start letting people in. We wanted to do another one in December, more of like maybe a winter type dance, or we got our pianos tuned recently. Both pianos, and so we have a piano in each building, so maybe have someone come and play jingles. But what we're looking to do with these dances going forward is to your point over here about like, hey, things make revenue or anything, we would like to keep it at a $5 cost for the seniors. So to help with that, we're trying to look at for some sponsors for some activities, just to cover, hey, if we do have a band, that they cover the band. And then the $5 to help cover the snacks and the things like that go into it. But we want to keep doing those activities, bring those back, and it was a very good start on that note. September 14th, we had a preseason flag football tournament. Over 50 teams showed up and participated in that tournament. And it was a tournament that our sports staffs, Rod Mayberry and Sean Fields, they ran that tournament. They organized it. It wasn't a third party or a group that we have who try to put on a tournament. It was our guys, and it's the biggest tournament I've seen out here since I've been here since June. So they did a very good job with that tournament. And then the very next week was the kickoff of our regular season, which was this past weekend. They got that done. We have over 1,000 participants in our youth flag football program. So that is our biggest program. And then starting this week, and then again next week, we have adult sports kicking off. So we have softball, basketball, football, and adult volleyball going. Those leagues are smaller than our youth, but we have heavy participation. I know for one of our groups in softball, we have 15 teams signed up. One thing we're looking to go into with 2025 is trying to maybe do some corporate partnerships too, like if companies want to put together a team, if like HEB wants to have a softball team out there, just trying to get them out there, get some awareness out there. So if y'all know anyone who'd be interested or any groups, I'd love to sit down and talk with them about what we can put together, but also putting together some one-day events to where you're not committed to 6 to 8 weeks. Because I know that's what kills some of these adults is that's a long time, whether for one, you simply don't want to commit that long or you can't because of, work. Like to me, it'd be easier to do almost like a corporate one-day tournament to where, hey, can we get X amount of businesses to agree, like, hey, during this window, we're able to work out, some employees being off to participate, or at least if we have a couple of activities going on, one group of staff could do kickball in the morning and the next group of staff do softball and volleyball in the evening type situation. But that's what we got going on our recreation programming. And then October 15th is the last day of the Unidad splash pad being open. We have some groups that the reason why they're reserving seating over there for birthday parties is because of the splash pad being open. So that's why we're staying open till October 15th in particular. And that's all I got unless Carl has anything to add to that note.
No? Roger?
Yeah, so in terms of parks, as y'all are well aware, we had a very, very nice rain that we were blessed with at the 1st of September. And so everything seemed to green up and everything is growing like mad. So we're very busy with servicing parks, servicing all of our 76 sites that we take care of throughout. We also took part with several events. You have the tournaments that Jesse was talking about. Our staff does all the prep work, does all the maintenance on the fields, and then helps during those tournaments as well. We had a 9/11 memorial event down by the river stage that we helped prepare for. And then, of course, we had Lily Fest last weekend that was really successful that we were preparing for. So it's been very busy. But, from this point on, things are going to start slowing down with the day length and everything else. Most of those plants will start shutting down. So we'll start working on trees, replacement trees, pruning trees, stump removal, things of that nature. So we just kind of shift gears. Things don't really slow down for us, they just shift. And then in terms of projects, we were very fortunate that the weather allowed us to finish on time both the Bell Park Playground and the Mountain View Playground projects that were grant funded. Our goal was to finish by the end of October, and we actually opened up the second playground here about 2 weeks ago or so. So we're done. About the only thing left, we have a few small amenities, benches and things like that we're still waiting on delivery. But in terms of the playgrounds, both the playgrounds are open at both of those parks now, and we're very pleased with that. From this point on, we have our projects crew primarily working on a lot of work orders, smaller projects that we have, and then they'll shift over to the storage building at the Texas Bank Sports Complex. So any questions? Oh, No, that was done a lot earlier. I was going to mention the convention center and some of those projects, but we probably mentioned those before in terms of finishing all the sodding and things like that, so.
Okay. Any public comment on any of that? Just kidding. Okay. Good with that?
Sure.
Okay. Number 5, consider future agenda items and discuss the next meeting date.
Next meeting date, October 24, 3:30 p.m. And then traditionally, we've not held the November and December meetings on their scheduled dates because they fall on the holidays. And we combine November and December into early December. That would be December 4. I do have one announcement I forgot to mention. We're going to have it's a small event, but a ribbon cutting for Mountain View Park Playground on Monday at 4 o'clock. It's there at Freeland and Mill Spa.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Carl. Anything else? All right. Well, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.